What is going on, guys? York here at Team Freelancer. Today I'm going to be talking about UMG Dallas, which is the next upcoming COD Sports event, which is going to be happening this weekend. Starts August 22nd and it ends on Sunday the 24th. The event contains a $20,000 and 10,000 pro points prize pool, where first place earns $10,000. Now, Friday at 4 p.m. is when bracket play begins. Now, on Friday, all of the matches that are going to be happening on Friday are going to be open bracket, because the way this event works, it works differently from what we've seen at Gfinity and Anaheim. It works like a pretty normal event where the open bracket plays and finishes up first, and the top 4 teams from the open bracket advance to the champ bracket, where those teams will play with the championship bracket teams to fight for first place. Now, after Friday, bracket play begins on Saturday and Sunday, both at 10 a.m., and that'll be more of the championship bracket matches. You'll see those on Saturday and Sunday. Let's go ahead and take a look at the open bracket. So as you can see, there's about over 120 teams in the open bracket. So there's no real way to predict who I think is going to do well in the open bracket, although I can guarantee you a couple of teams that will probably make it through. I know Rise is definitely going to make it through the open bracket because they're on the league, so they definitely deserve to make it through, and they'll probably pull through on that. Looking at the other halves, Stunner Gaming might make it through. Annex is probably going to make it through, and I think Mutiny Elite is also probably going to make it through. Those are probably going to be the 4 teams. Not exactly sure though, but let's move on to the championship bracket. So here we're looking at the champ bracket, and you see the seeding is based off of pro points instead of actual wins, because this is different from MLG, so not basing it off of the league, which is why Optic Nation is your first seed. If Evil Geniuses had been in this event, it would be them, but since Karma had the kid, they're not going. So Optic Nation's the first seed, and next we have Team Caliber and Optic and FaZe and then Envy. So as you can see here, for ON, FaZe, TK, and Optic Gaming, there are TBA spots under their team names, because those are where the top 4 open bracket teams are going to go once they get into the champ bracket. So I don't think that any of those 4 teams are going to have a problem playing the open bracket teams. They're probably going to beat them no matter what, unless Rise turns out to be an excellent team and they end up beating like FaZe or maybe Optic. They probably won't matter. So let's take a look at my bracket predictions. Now, let's get into round 1 on the winners bracket. So you see Optic Nation plays whatever open bracket team. They're definitely going to win that. Most Wanted playing Strictly Business. I have Most Wanted winning this. I know that team has Spacely and Classic and a couple other pretty good players. Strictly Business has Fizzerp, Stainville John, and I believe Methods. And I'm just not sure how that team, meshes well together. I know Fizzerp's a maniac, especially in search and stuff, but I think Most Wanted is going to take that win. Next up, we have FaZe Gaming playing any open bracket team. They're probably going to beat them no matter what. I have no doubt that they'll win that. Team Envy versus Justice. Envy's going to win that. There's pretty much no questioning that. And same goes for Team Caliber when they play an open bracket team. TK's going to win. Curse playing Vanquish. This one's hard to predict, just because Curse has been doing pretty bad in the league. And I know it's online, so it doesn't matter as much as the LAN event, but Vanquish I don't know much about. I think their team has Miyagi and Chino and a couple others, but I think Curse is going to be able to secure the win on that match. Next up, we have Optic Gaming also playing one of the open bracket teams, and Optic Gaming is going to win that no matter what. Looking at Denial and Vex, this one's a little bit tough to predict too, because I don't know much about Vex. I don't even remember who's on their roster, but I know that Denial is an extremely strong squad, especially compared to what you've seen in Season 2. Denial now has Study as well as Zuma, I believe, and those are really good players. Those are some of the best players I think Denial has had, so I think that they're going to beat Vex pretty easily. Looking at the winners bracket round 2, we have Optic Nation playing Most Wanted. Optic Nation's definitely going to take that win. There's no way that they would let Most Wanted beat them. Looking at FaZe Gaming versus Team Envious. This one's pretty 50-50, because the thing you have to think about here is that Envy Well, they had a really good event at G3. Since then, they've barely practiced at all. I think they've had maybe 2 or 3 days of actual practice because they've been in Europe for a really long time. They've barely touched a controller since G3. And that could either hurt them or it could really not make a difference. I know that Evil Geniuses has won events where they haven't practiced at all before the event. And maybe they can pull something like that off, but I have a feeling that it's going to affect them and they're probably not going to win this event just because they haven't practiced. But I think playing against FaZe, Envy will probably still take the win. Moving on down to Team Caliber versus Curse, TK's going to win that. There's no doubt about it. Curse, they can't beat Team Caliber. And also moving down to Optic Gaming versus Denial, I'm 99% sure that Optic Gaming's going to beat Denial, but I actually think it's going to be a close match. I was talking to Wash about this earlier. He made a good point that Denial is a really good upset team, especially with Study and Zuma on their squad now. Denial is just a really unpredictable squad, but I think Optic's still going to beat them. Now looking at round 3, this is when it starts to get really interesting. I have Optic Nation against Team Envy. And this, again, really depends on whether Team Envy is going to be hurt from not being able to practice a lot. But I think Optic Nation is going to take the win no matter what. Just because Optic Nation is a really consistent team. Next up, looking on round 3, we have Team Caliber versus Optic Gaming. And this one's also very 50-50 because, Team Caliber has been improving a lot lately. Ever since they had their old roster back together, the 4 of them have been grinding really hard and they've been improving a lot. And if they can have a really good event, probably one of the best events that they've ever had, then they can beat Optic. Because we've seen Team Caliber beat Evil Geniuses several times before, but they can't ever seem to beat Optic. But I think Optic's going to secure this win against Team Caliber, at least in the winners bracket, and they're going to move on to the semifinals. Now this is where it gets really, really crazy. So looking at the semifinals, I have Optic Nation and Optic Gaming facing each other. That is just an insane matchup. I mean, if this actually happened, the crowd would just go nuts. It would be like one of the craziest matches you'll ever see in your life. And it's really hard to predict it too. The main difference between Optic Nation and Optic Gaming is that Optic Nation is just more consistent. They consistently do good, and Optic Gaming can either do excellent or really terrible. You think back. Since Optic Nation has existed, you look back at UGC Niagara, they placed top 4. They won the open bracket at Anaheim, and they placed top 4 at G3. And Optic Gaming has been all over the place. They've won X Games, but they've also, placed top 8 or below that in other events. So it's really unpredictable, but I'm going to say I have confidence in Optic. I think that they're going to win. I think that, if Proofy shows up, then they're going to win this event. And that they'll probably beat Optic Nation here in the semifinals. Now looking at round 5 of the losers bracket, we have Envy playing Team Caliber. And this one's one of the most 50-50 matchups in the whole tournament because, we know the situation with TK, and we know the situation with Envy, and if, the lack of practice, completely ruins Envy, then they're going to lose to Team Caliber. But they could win if, they pull in Evil Geniuses and play just as well. I'm going to give this win to Team Caliber. Just play it safe. Looking at the semifinals, we have Optic Nation versus Team Caliber, and this is also a really tough one. Actually, I was looking at the Actually, I was looking at some stats here on Codpedia, and if you look at what went down at Gfinity 3, you see here, when TK played Optic Nation in the quarterfinals, Optic Nation 3-0'd TK. And so that's making me think that Optic Nation's going to win this. They can probably work that same magic that they worked on TK at G3, and that's probably going to take them out of the series. Now, if what I've predicted so far is correct, then that means that Optic Nation is going to meet back up with Optic Gaming again in the finals. And that's just insane. I mean, if this actually happens, this will be an event for the history books. But Optic Nation versus Optic Gaming, it's just as 50-50 as I said earlier. Optic Nation is more consistent. If Ricky can have a good event, then they could win the event. And same thing goes for Proofy on Optic Gaming. And looking at how kind of shaky Optic Gaming has been, then I got to give the win to OM on this one. But the actual bracket isn't as important. What I want you to look at here is these final results that I've typed up. So you see this top 6: Optic Nation, Optic Gaming, Team Caliber, Envy, FaZe, and Denial. I'm almost positive that these 6 teams are going to be in the top 6. I'm just not sure which order it's going to be in. Unless a team like Curse or Strictly Business or Rise does some, magical upsets here, this is going to be the top 6. There's no doubt about it. The interesting thing about this event is since Evil Geniuses isn't playing, there's no clear-cut team of who's going to win, and it's really up for grabs for all 5 of these teams, really. This is going to be one of the most interesting events I've watched. Like I said, I think either Optic Nation or TK or Envy are probably going to win the event. So that's about all there is, guys. Sorry if my predictions completely disagree with yours and you hate me, for the predictions that I just made here. Sorry that I couldn't put Optic in first place. I have confidence in them. I think they'll have a good event, but it's hard to say. Be sure to subscribe to the channel to keep seeing all our daily content. Drop a like if you enjoyed my predictions, if you thought I brought some valuable insight to the event, and be sure to leave a comment if you disagree with any of my predictions or you have any questions for me. I love to discuss this stuff with you guys. And that's it for now. This is York signing off. I'll see you guys.